Sorry to cough as soon as I open the thing. I see this little thing about an Iberian lynx that is white, like appearing, and it being this majestic thing, and it's such a rare breed of cat, and it looks like it's from another world. And I find it super fascinating because, like, Don Jose Ruiz says we live in a dream, right? And we can create our own dream, or we live in another person's version of our dream. Or we just take a bunch of pieces of everybody else's version of our dream and we make it our own dream and forget who we are, right? And, like, or just don't decide to be who we are and end up existing in this place kind of like of doldrums. And that is the place where, like, the trauma and shame that you pick up kind of keeps you unless you face it. And the trick is facing it, and it's super hard to face. It is like you have to be super self-aware, and you have to be super honest with yourself. You have to have fierce self-integrity, because so many things that we fantasize about are a waste of time. Like pretending like I'm gonna get this house without a plan, without a structured idea in your mind of how it's gonna happen, and without taking any steps in that direction and continuously saying it, it's empty. It's not gonna come to fruition because you're not doing it. Now, saying it over and over again eventually could call it into, because you could get sick of yourself like me and start actually making a plan to get to where you want to go and seeing clear trajectory on your path. Like, I can see pretty clearly what it is that I need to do in order to get this business profitable and buy a gym and be able to have an earth medicine restaurant. I can get all of it done. I think probably in 5 years, which is knowing how these things work. It's probably, it will probably take a little bit longer, because if I'm guessing 5 years, it's either I'm way overshooting or I'm way undershooting, so we'll see. But at the same time, like, I have a plan. This is what I'm doing. This is this phase of the plan. And then this is this. And I see it in my mind. So it's not just empty words that I'm saying. And the action did come from empty words that I was saying. And eventually I called it into, like, what I actually wanted, because I was tired of saying it and wanted to see it happen. And you do kind of have to get over yourself and get sick of yourself in order to kind of conquer your ego in a way that will allow you to face your shame. And for me, I think that is really a beautiful revelation, coming to that understanding of that, like, stop saying things that you don't believe unless you believe that it will eventually make you do it, which I did. There was an underlying subconscious belief that if I keep saying this stupid shit that I have no plan for, right, then I can manifest it. Well, you can't manifest things if you have no action behind the manifestation. Not even, like, things come out of the clear blue sky for people who are working on things. That's when the universe starts to kind of bend to your will, is when you start to do the work. And whether it can be any kind of work, whether it's work on yourself, whether it's work on your project that you're trying to get done, your goals, whether it's work on any of that, right? So once you start on the path, the way appears type situation, or you take the first step, the staircase appears. Same type concepts. You create it as you walk through it. And that is a beautiful thing. That's scary. Why is there a demon in their front yard? I would not ever sleep at night. Sorry, I passed a house. I'm driving, and I passed a house, and there's like this huge, like very real looking demon statue in their front yard. And I was like, dude, who like goes to the store and is like, let me grab that from you for Halloween? Not me, but I don't even really celebrate Halloween, so that's a story for a different day. Well, I do celebrate it, just in a different way than most people. Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. But yeah, so it's important. Like, what do you want? If you know what you want, you will eventually get it if you believe that you can get it. That's this magic. Like, it's so wild. Because, like, in spite of every struggle that I've been through, it's been a lot. And as I face my own shame and trauma, then I take more and more responsibility for my part in all of the BS that I've dealt with in my life. And it was 100% me. Most people have not been to jail 15 times. Most people have not almost gone to prison. Most people have not been in a serious relationship with a kingpin drug dealer to the point where she was like, I was a kid driving all these cars, having all this money, all these guns. It was a wild ride that my mom tried. My dad, who should have been the one, didn't protect me from. And so, like, it was wild. But I put myself in those situations every single time. Ugh. There was never a moment that I wasn't responsible for what was going on. It was my idea, or I snuck out, or I called this person to pick me up from school at noon so that I could go hang out all day, or I had this person pick me up at 3 a.m. and then I called my dad and said, oh, my friend took me to school, sorry. And like, just so much ridiculous. Like, I put myself in those situations, and then because I put myself in those situations over and over again, and I didn't know why I was doing it, like, it was like this compulsion, right? But then also at the same time, I thought I was having fun. I was like living life, right? No, I was walking into a snare with my eyes open, just openly walking into a trap. Every single one of my friends ended up going to prison. God protected me 100% of the time, not 90% of the time, not 65, 100% of the time. That's why my faith in God is so solid, because that dude protected me from my own self. He protected me from stupid situations that would ruin my entire life, like in real time, to where like I was at a hotel room. I said, see you later. I walked out the door, went down the elevator. As I was getting on the elevator, the FBI, the police department, dogs, everything else were coming up the staircase. And within minutes of me leaving, they had busted in the door of the hotel room that I was standing in and arrested everyone inside, found a copious amount of drugs, like a ridiculous amount of drugs, an obscene amount of drugs, charged my friend. She had to be on house arrest. wild. By the time I got back to my house, because it was before cell phones, we had pagers. It was before cell phones. I get back to my house and I call or page. Nobody's responding. Nobody's calling me back. I call the hotel room. Nobody's answering. I am compromising my own phone number in this case. Well, thank God it was right after, and they did not investigate that piece of me calling the hotel room. I guess they were busy with other stuff. There was probably a lot of people involved, and things got lost in the shuffle. Thank God that was one of the things, because I did not get in trouble. My one friend went to prison. My boyfriend went to jail for a while. And my friend who was underage like me, those two men were not. My one friend who was underage like me went to jail as well. She ended up on house arrest, and I ended up hanging out at her house, keeping her company as much as humanly possible, honestly. And that was ridiculous too. That's a story for a different day also. What I'm saying, and like, I was acting out these things that I was doing, these situations that I was putting myself in. And God was protecting me from myself. I had some level of I had shame from, my dad was pretty abusive growing up. He also, like, whenever I was a teenager, would get drunk and kind of physically, like, throw me around, or try to, and then I would kick his ass. But it was traumatic either way, you know, like, it was a situation that I could not control, and it was a situation that contributed to me seeking out a domestically violent relationship later, and I didn't realize it was unconscious because I was in shame and making excuses for him. And when you make excuses for your abuser, you bury it inside of you. You don't do anything for them. You just tear yourself down. And I had to go through everything that I went through and try to understand the lesson of those things eventually, maybe not in the moment, and in order to have the bravery and the guts and the boldness to face the shame of that, understand it, forgive my dad, still love my dad with big, fat, huge agape love that is just on top of his head regardless, because he did raise me and because it was hard, even though he made huge mistakes and didn't care as much as he should have. Regardless, doesn't matter. I cannot control that. What I can control is how I approach it, and my approach to it is I love him anyway. I accept that it was not okay and that I carried shame because of it, and that shame had kept me stuck for a really long time doing a bunch of dumb stuff and putting myself in situations that caused me problems, and then being like, I don't understand why I have all these problems. I don't understand why I'm alone. I don't understand why, like, just a bunch of different things that God was like, it's because you have so much to sort through, and you have to let go of this shame, and you have to embrace who you are, and you have to let go of these trauma responses and enjoy your life. You do not have to like all of the things other people like. You do not have to mold to make anybody happy. You do not have to bend or be in any kind of box, although you've felt that you have for a long time because you thought that you were unlovable due to the situations in your life that were beyond your control. But that is not true. That was a lie that you were telling yourself. That was a part. Well, I didn't see a guy who's like mad at me. That is a part of your dream that is not accurate. That you are, you have allowed other people to tell you, like, and you can change it and you can recreate your dream. So and as I understand those things and I step into the understanding of that, it gives me great healing. And I have also been able to, like, go out and find clothes that I like, decorate my house in ways that I like. And although that seems very weird and trivial that I couldn't do that before, it was because I lost my identity in others so that I could please them. And I had to stop that. I had to transcend that. The reason why I was doing it was because of shame that I carried and a trauma response. And the entire storm, every aspect of the wheel was contributing to the issue. Like, there's a visual of a wheel, and you're supposed to stand on the center spoke, because the center spoke is the place where you stay still, like the eye of the storm. And you see everything going around you, and you just take it as it comes, right? I couldn't do that. I was on the wheel. I was spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And I was getting sick and screaming and crying, like, why am I getting sick? Why am I still sick? Why can't I not be sick? And one day, finally, I saw that the center of the wheel was still. And so I started climbing up the spoke, and even though I was still spinning, I started climbing up the spoke so that I could get to the center. And every inch as the spoke spun, it came to a new thing that I had to unravel and I had to fix. And it would come back to that thing, and because there would be parts of it that were still broken, parts of it that I was still holding on to as I spun on the wheel, as I climbed up the spoke. And when I would come back to it, I would learn something new and let go of another thing and get another inch closer to the center of the wheel. And now I feel at age 44 that I am at the center of the wheel. And from age 0 to age 4, I remember being at the center of the wheel also. And watching people around me spin. Just spin. And at some point, they dragged me onto the wheel and put me all the way right with them, right next to them on the outer spoke, and tried to keep me there as long as they possibly could, because they didn't want to see anybody get ahead of them on the spoke or get close to the center of the wheel, because for whatever reason, the center of the wheel scared them. And that could be represented as the wilderness. The spinning, 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 spinning. Because think about the Israelites in the desert. They walked for 40 years in circles in an 11-mile space. So that's the same idea. I spent 40 years in the wilderness, stomping on thorny sage bushes and saying, why do I have a thorn in my foot? And eventually, God picked me up and took me out. because I was working my way towards the center of the wheel. But you can't get to the center of the wheel for real without God. You can get close. You can get close enough to stand still. But you can't get true centered with your heart without God. And over time, that little off-center variation can pull you back onto the wheel if you're not all the way centered. And you don't want that to happen, because it's without God, the alchemy is not real. It's manipulation, sorcery, and magic, and not breathed on by spirit. So it's counterfeit. And you can't get to the center with counterfeit. You can get close, but that off-centeredness can spit you right back out onto the chaos of the wheel. Real fast and easy. Right when you think you're comfortable. Right when you think everything is going the way that it needs to go. Because that's God. That's how God works. Like, I'll let you do it for a while the wrong way, and hopefully you can learn from your mistakes. And then I'll be there to hold you up unless you stop learning. And although I was unconsciously being ridiculous as a youngster in ways that were very dangerous, subconsciously I was still learning and growing and very much in it, trying to figure out something. And I think that God appreciates and appreciated my boldness, my willingness to step out. And He protected me and made it clear that He protected me. He sent me 3 angels in a day. I'll tell that story one day soon. And an angel to me whenever I was in jail, in prison, like they would say in the Bible. I was in jail though, not prison. I was locked up. God sent me angels in the courtroom to make sure that I didn't go to prison. God saved me. For real. Like, tangible, clear evidence. It was obviously God. It could only have been God. And He saved me while I watched other people go down. And I ran from situation to situation until I faced that shame and became unstuck. And I ran in circles in the wilderness until finally I faced myself and walked down my ego and said, you need to chill out. I want to exist in my heart, and I want to walk with heart and love. And God saw that, and I think He liked it, because here we are. I'm very thankful. So grateful. Thank you for this art that came from my heart.